Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Near West Side Partners weekly webinar. My name is Lindsey St. Arnold Bell, and I'm the Associate Director here at Near West Side Partners. So we will get on with the show. So last week was December 1st. Today is December 8th. And it definitely feels like winter is here. Quick reminder to everybody to please stay warm. Make sure you're checking on your neighbors at this time. I know that we all try to be a little bit careful about getting into our neighbors' business, but caring about their welfare is by no means getting into their business. And if you have concerns about their safety or well-being, you can always call 211 or the police non-emergency number to do a safety check. Definitely want to make sure that we are taking care of those in our neighborhoods who need the extra help. 211 is a great resource, not just for guidance on what you can do, but for resources that are available, like shelters, warming shelters, food pantries, and things of that nature. So definitely utilize those resources. This time of season is always the right time to be thinking about that. Also, remember some holiday safety tips. Your safety always comes first. We want to make sure that as we start gathering gifts for our families, that we remember the greatest gift for our family is our presence. So make sure that you keep yourself safe, turn on your porch lights, lock your doors, and do what you can to make this a happy and safe holiday. A couple other important updates for Near West Side residents. There are two public involvement meetings coming up this week. Actually, one is tonight and one is tomorrow night regarding the reconstruction of I-94 East-West. So at this meeting, they're going to be reviewing the two different options that they have put together for the project and ask for your input on these designs. You can ask questions at these meetings, share some of the concerns or things that you like about the designs. The meeting tonight will be from 4 to 7 at State Vale Park, and tomorrow from 4 to 7 at the DNR building on St. Paul. We think it's so important that Near West Side residents have an opportunity to share their thoughts and their feelings about these plans. So definitely attend one of these sessions if you can. We also want to remind everybody that unfortunately, we are still dealing with our pandemic and a new variant, and it is so important that we keep each other and keep ourselves safe by masking up when we're in public and getting a vaccine as soon as possible. Vaccines can help reduce your risk of death when it comes to COVID-19, which to me is well worth a jab. So definitely, if you haven't been vaccinated yet, visit the City of Milwaukee's website. You can get a free vaccine at a number of locations throughout the city, and it's a safe, effective, and easy thing to do. The Milwaukee Health Department is also looking for some input on a new 5-year strategic plan that they are putting together. They really want to assess how they can advance public health through an anti-racist lens. So they have put together this survey, which is linked below. It is available through December 23rd. And they want to hear the voices of residents and people who work at service organizations throughout the Near West Side and throughout the city of Milwaukee to help dictate what the future of public health will look like for the city. So please take a moment to fill that out. It's relatively short and easy to do. Also a reminder that we have a great neighborhood food pantry here. That's a great resource for our neighborhood at Neighborhood House. So on Wednesdays from noon until 2 and Thursdays from 4 to 6 p.m., you can stop by the pantry, which is a full choice pantry, which allows you to shop and pick the items that you like best. You can grab up to 3 days worth of food, and it's only serving residents in the 53208 or 53233 zip codes. So please do stop by and utilize this great neighborhood resource. We also have another great neighborhood resource, the new Near West Side Partners event calendar on our website. Here we are posting new events not only hosted by Near West Side, but those that are hosted by partners in the neighborhood or may be of interest to our residents. So if you haven't checked out the calendar yet, definitely do take a look. And if you have an event coming up that you'd like to be included, there's an opportunity, a little form that you can fill out to include that there. And then we have one more little update before we get to our main event with our Executive Director, Keith Stanley. Before he comes on, I will share this great video that he put together.
What if in the city of Milwaukee there was a successful nonprofit that not only looked like the community it served, but also hired locally? And what if that same nonprofit with a proven track record in assisting the lives of renters, homeowners, schools, businesses, children, communities of faith, and nonprofits needed your help? How would you give? When would you give? Would you give today? Click on the link below to support the Near West Side Partners.
Well, I'm not entirely sure that worked, but if it didn't, we'll be sure to link to it in our Near West Side Facebook page so you can see that video. And with that, I would welcome Keith Stanley, our Executive Director, to turn on his camera and join us for the discussion about the 2021 Appreciative Inquiry Summit.
Lindsey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I have to admit that was quite a lot of information at the top, all of it relevant for our community, the Near West Side. So great job with just sharing that information, especially a couple of highlights there. I want to say the food pantry with Neighborhood House is very key. And for those of us who know, we have some of our people within the community, some residents in our community who are suffering around this time, and that's really helpful. But also, I would also say that it's really exciting to see the support for the warming shelters and letting people know about the 211 number and to report those who may need help. Recently, there's been some high-profile incidents that occurred in our city, and we want to make sure that those who may not are suffering from housing insecurity, they have a place to stay. So I just encourage each one of you, as you're listening to this webinar, whether it's now or in a future broadcast, that you make sure that you use those resources to help some of our brothers and sisters who are suffering. But with that said, we're going to hop right into the 2021 Appreciative Inquiry Summit. Lindsey, that was a good time. It was in July, just a few months ago when the weather was just a little bit warmer, and there were some great things happening. And so for us, really, this was a 2.5-day virtual summit that allowed us to really explore this appreciative inquiry process, and we talk a little bit more about that process. But as we look at this, we knew going into this summit what we were looking at, and we are thankful for Harley Davidson supporting this and actually bringing the experts in the appreciative inquiry to the table and helping us through this process. We wanted to support a healthy and happy people in the Near West Side. And as you can see, great housing and schools and food choices. That's important to us as we look at becoming a neighborhood of choice, to empower thriving united communities, celebrating diversity, our greatest strength, and advancing racial equity, commemorating our history and strengthening our future through connectivity connectivity to rapid transit, arts and culture, improved civic engagement, and family-friendly activities. Now, as we think about this, we're excited because these are the things that are part of our strategic plan, and these are things that we have been working on. And so this Appreciative Inquiry Summit really solidified the work that we've been doing for the past 6 years. And lastly, to facilitate vibrant and equitable communities where local businesses thrive alongside anchor institutions, creating an entrepreneurial and welcoming atmosphere where through policy planning and partnership, there are opportunities for all people to thrive in great neighborhoods, in this great neighborhood of neighborhoods. So that was important to us as we went into the summit. Those were our objectives. Lindsey, you want to add anything to that, or you want to move on to this process?
Moving into the process really gives a good idea of how we worked through those objectives. So let's move on.
Yes, and so what I like about this process, and I started researching and reviewing it. I was like, hey, how will this play into neuroscience and what we're doing? And so you see before you these I'm gonna say the 3Ds. Day one, discovery, or 4Ds, I think it is, discovery and dream. Discover what's there in the neuroscience, the assets, the cultures, the things that make the neuroscience, and then dream about how do we dream about the neuroscience and what it could continually become. And then again, day two, dream and design. So we play upon those dreams and we begin to design what we would like to see, and ultimately delivery. And what about this process I think is really important is that this is an asset-based process. So many of us who are in community and economic development, the nonprofit world, we work for a community-based organization, a CBO. A lot of times we start with the deficits. We start with the things that are somewhat negative, so people say we got to focus in on the crime or focus in on things that are impacting our residents and our business negatively. But this process really, it starts us with the assets. And that's exciting because I think all of us really, when we look at our neighborhood, we want to show the strengths, not necessarily the weaknesses.
Yeah, I would just add, Keith, I really found through the 3 days, that was what was most inspiring. We had a really large and diverse group of people who joined. So we had a lot of residents that were participating. We had local business owners. We had individuals from some of the nonprofits and service organizations in the Near West Side, and then some people who weren't from the neighborhood, who all kind of worked together through these 3 different workshops to come up with these ideas. And I think what we really enjoyed was hearing about why people liked living here, what it was that attracted them to the neighborhood to do their business, to open their business, why they think it's a great place to deliver resources or services to their clients. So I think really focusing on the assets set a good tone and created a space where we could be really creative and thoughtful about what could be potential solutions to some of the problems that we do know exist.
Exactly. Solutions to the problems we know exist. And now as we go through what was discussed and some of the things that came out of that, those discussions, we have a list here. During this 3-day event, teams discuss, brainstorm, and develop actionable ideas related to the following topics. And I like that term actionable, because that's exactly what we were going with when we think about it. We talk about the Near West Side in this Appreciative Inquiry Summit. Improved health and well-being. That is really important. We all know what the pandemic has done to not just the city of Milwaukee, the state, the country, but the world, and how some of these issues around health and well-being have been exacerbated by the pandemic. And how do we respond? Not just the physical health, but the mental health of the residents. Having accessible food options, and once again, healthy food options. That's a major issue for the Near West Side. And we've done some work to improve, but how do we go in that direction? Also, racial healing. We saw what happened in 2020, and really 2020 was just symbolic of what has been happening for many people of color, people in poverty over the many decades prior. And this was just a boiling point. And then how do we begin to address that racial healing? The safety and security, that's always number one for the Near West Side, because we want our residents, our businesses, the people that live, work, play, and stay in the Near West Side to be healthy. But also youth opportunities. That was a big one. A part of our 3-day summit was we created a platform to hear from our youth. What were their concerns? It was a very moving segment of the Appreciative Inquiry Summit. The whole system, economic creation, transformative funding development, becoming a community of choice, greening and renewing, and post-summit momentum. All this was a part of the discussion, and we had several hundred people around different work groups discussing these ideas, pulling them apart, putting them together, ways that we can move forward on these 4 topics. Lindsey, would you add anything?
Well, I wouldn't add much other than what this slide really dives into, which is from there, we didn't want this to be a practice that lived in the 2.5 days in July 2021. We wanted to make sure that the time that we spent together actually produced some outcomes that could be integrated into the work that Near West Side does, and that in a year, 2 years, 5 years, we can point back to and say, this was something that was driven because of our work here today. So this slide really kind of shows you how we've tried to take these things that came out of that Appreciative Inquiry Summit, becoming a community of choice, engaging youth opportunities, developing a green and renewing community, and integrated it into our strategic plan, which really focuses on 4 main areas: housing, commercial corridor development, safety, and health. And, I think we were really fortunate that there was already a lot of consensus and integration. So this was actually it felt pretty natural to make this step and to make this move. And I think I'm excited to see what some of the projects are to share some of the projects that came out of this.
Before you move on, Lindsey, I just do want to share, for those who know the Near West Side as these 7 beautiful historic communities in the city of Milwaukee, and for those who know the work of Near West Side partners and what we've been able to accomplish for the 6-7 years we've been around, I would share that we can't do it all as a community-based organization. And so the strategic plan really aligns itself, or I should say, take this back, the Appreciative Inquiry Summit aligned itself kind of neatly with the strategic plan. And so I just want to point at the top of that slide, you see the Near West Side Partners priority areas. Those are the areas we focus in on. Those 4 core areas are important to us because it allows us to keep ourselves accountable, keep ourselves transparent and honest as we work on doing the work that we all want to see in the Near West Side. And then those working teams, and those 4 different working teams. If you're interested in joining a working team, let us know, email us, give us a call. These working teams are quite active. They're bringing in resources in the community, and they're really making things go. But you see the housing, commercial corridor development, which is basically business recruitment and retention, and then safety, and then health. Then ultimately, and then as we look at the Appreciative Inquiry Design prototype that leads us to these projects, and we're going to get a little more about these projects. And also, I will highlight the foundation. The foundation items you see below, that is what really is the foundation of the Near West Side Partner and what makes us tick and continue to move forward. The neighborhood identity and communication. So we're always communicating, of course, but we're also providing branding opportunities for each one of our neighborhoods. The resident engagement, we believe in that. The public and private partnership, working with our anchors, our government, the private and public sector, and then a strong organization. And of course, data is always key. And I bring those up, most of you may know that, but that's important to the work we do as we move forward into this next phase of focusing on the issues that have come out, the topics that have come out of the Appreciative Inquiry Summit.
This is maybe a little bit more technical than what we would normally get into with some discussions about this, but I do think it's always helpful to kind of understand how these works flow together. So as Keith mentioned, we do have our 4 working teams that, we welcome residents, business owners, service providers, representatives to join. And each one of the working teams will be working on a minimum of 1 of these individual projects. And those will be overseen by Keith and the Near West Side Partners Board of Directors and Near West Side leadership.
One thing I'll add, Lindsey, I know we got to continue to keep going, but I will add that just know, those who are listening, that at each level, we make sure that residents have a voice, our youth have a voice, our nonprofits and businesses have a voice. Each one of those levels, as we look at these projects, we are a diverse community, and we're going to encourage diversity and inclusion and equity in each one of those projects that we're doing. This is exciting right here because these are really what it boils down to. I really like this graphic. I appreciate the folks behind putting this graphic together. Shout out to our friend April. You see the Appreciative Inquiry Summit projects, Concordia 27. And Lindsey, does it make sense for us to talk about each one now, or should we hold back? I know there's some slides that kind of go into detail. Should we talk about them or just kind of highlight a high level right now?
Your preference, Keith.
Real quickly, we just do a quick summary and we'll be going through these, but the Concordia 27 project is the Near West Side Partners Community Center. I am so excited about this project because as we look at different communities across the country, across the state, and even in our city, the community center plays such a major role. And the Near West Side Partners and our anchor institutions, our businesses and residents really believe in this project. The Near West Side Community Corners, exciting project. I think there's going to be more to be said about this, and I'm looking forward to that, Lindsey. Of course, green and renewing Near West Side. We all know what's happening, climate change. What role can Near West Side Partners play? Bringing trees and green space, not just for climate change, but for the mental health of our residents. There's been numerous studies about where trees and green space are located and what it means for residents, and that's important to us. Meaningful opportunities for youth. This is what we're exploring. We've partnered with a number of different organizations right in the Near West Side to begin to explore this, what this will look like. Is it job opportunities? Is it space for our youth? What does it look like, including our youth that we've got involved inside this project? And then magnetic community of choice. This means that we will continue to support this neighborhood being a neighborhood of choice. So when you look at the city of Milwaukee, you look at southeastern Wisconsin, we want Near West Side to pop up as like, this is a community. We have the schools, we have the land, we have the jobs. We want to begin to pull all those assets together and say, if you want to have a lifestyle that complements the family and your spouse and all the people that make up who you are, that you can take a look at the Near West Side as being a choice neighborhood to live in. Anything you would add to that, Lindsey?
There isn't. I'd say let's dive in. Let's get into the details.
Let's get into the deets, as we would say in the Near West Side. Concordia 27, as I mentioned, is the community center. The community center, community-driven redevelopment project. Our champion, Rick Wiegand, the owner of the Ambassador Hotel, has identified a space. We're now working with a number of different partners to pull this together. I want to go right into it. The goals: identify potential location, determines physical space can house the anticipated services. We have that, completed that already. Identify potential partners within the Near West Side and externally provide desired services. The project itself, as we look at goal number 2, we are looking at providing resources and or solutions to 6 inequities in the Near West Side: housing and food insecurity, trauma, health disparities, transportation, and unemployment issues. All that is wrapped up in the Concordia 27 Community Center. And then lastly, identify potential sources of trisectoral funding to support the redevelopment project. That is where we're at right now. We're working to develop funding to make this project a go.
Keith, what I think is really exciting about this project, and coming out of the AI Summit, there is a real sense of this need to have a physical gathering place. And I think, after 2 years of living in a more isolated space, I think we all understand the importance of those places that you can go to have a variety of your interests and needs met. And I think that this team is really focused on understanding what are the needs and interests and amenities that are attractive to the residents that live in the neighborhood, to the employees that work in the neighborhood, to those who come to visit, and how can we develop a space that is inviting and attractive for that kind of fellowship, someplace that you want to hang out in and you want to visit for multiple times, maybe a day or a week. So I think this could be a really attractive project for a lot of people, a lot of different partners, and a lot of different visitors.
I love this project. And I will say there's also a space we're hoping that we'll be able to attract entrepreneurs, a business incubator space, which is amazing, I think, for the Near West Side, as we have the track record of bringing over 45 new businesses to the Near West Side.
If you'd like, Keith, I can talk a little bit about the Community Corners project.
Yes.
So this is a really innovative project that came out of one of the teams that were evaluating safety in the neighborhood. And what they realized is, there's kind of many aspects to what makes a neighborhood safe in ways to address the safety concerns people have. I think it's no question that traffic speeds and reckless driving is a concern, not just here in the Near West Side, but across the city. And so this team is really focused on how can they improve safety at intersections between, especially for those driving and for those pedestrians, and just generally improve the experience of our streets and our intersections. So if you think about 27th Street, if you've driven down there lately since we put up the planters and the bollards, it doesn't only slow down traffic, it doesn't only make it safer for people to cross the street. The streets themselves look prettier. We have plants and we have greenery, and we have that demonstration that this is a community that cares about its neighborhood. So this team is really focused on how do we identify those key intersections, ensure that they're safe for people driving and walking, and then how can we engage residents in the creation of safe driving, biking, and walking initiatives, and how can we utilize these public spaces to share information with residents and visitors that is valuable to them. So is it having, for example, directional signage? Is it having ambassadors posted at various intersections to share resources? These are all different things that this team will be evaluating and looking at over the course of the next year.
I would say, Lindsey, this is where our partnership with the Milwaukee Police Department, our partnership with the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works, our partnership with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, all are key into making this this Near West Side Community Corners safe. I think it's important just for those who are listening to understand that we understand the value of having a safe community, specifically when it comes to traffic. And whether it's partnering with the Milwaukee Police Department on the traffic safety unit, TSU, they've been able to do, I think, over 17,000 tickets issued. We understand its importance, and this is why this is a part of our AI Summit project, to make sure that we continue to go in that direction so we can get people from home and to work and to all the other many places we have in the Near West Side. Green and renewing Near West Side. Lindsey, let's talk a little bit about this. I'm excited about this. We need more green and renewing, knowing that Hawaii just got some snow, I think, which is crazy.
The Green and Renewing project is really cool. And, before I dive too deep into it, what you'll hear as we go through each one of these projects is there are certain elements from each one that kind of overlap into the next. So there's really good continuity between the projects and a good overlap with the teams who are working on them to make sure that, as we advance or have an event for one project, that the interests of the other are tied into it. And Green and Renewing is really focused on two things. They have kind of two projects. One is called Arbor Fest. It's really focused on how can we implement more nature-based work in the Near West Side with residents, businesses, and encourage a space that is healthier, greener, and cleaner, not just for the people who live here, but for everybody in the city. Keith touched on it at the top. We really recognize the mental health benefits of having a clean and green community, and to have that physical connection between the individual working in their community, in their garden, in their roadway, wherever it is. So the Arbor Fest will be an annual event. Their goal is to have it be an annual event where we can connect with the many different organizations that are already working in this space in Milwaukee and help bring some of those resources and solutions right to the Near West Side. So we do hope to share some plans and ideas on that in early 2022 and get everybody excited about an event in early summer. The second part of this team is really focusing on what they call roots and roots. So what are some of the they're looking at what are some of the major thoroughfares through the Near West Side? How are people traveling along the streets of the Near West Side? And how can we ensure that those streets are safe for all sorts of travel, not just car travel, but bicycles, pedestrians, people riding motorcycles? And how can we ensure that they're inviting, so that they're clean, that they have plantings that maintain rainwater and are environmentally stable? And how do we diversify our plantings and our tree species so that if we do have big windstorms, for example, or invasive species, that we aren't risking our entire community and our entire greenery at that point? So I think this is a really unique and fun group to be on, because they do have kind of these two overlapping focuses that really address both safety and mental health in some really unique ways. And I can move on.
Yeah, Lindsey, before you go on though, I do want to say what's important. You mentioned something that I think was valuable. You mentioned that there's overlap between each one of these projects, and I totally agree. And also thing I want to mention that's important is that not only do we have overlap, which I think is really great for these projects, but there's already momentum in these projects. And so the momentum, for example, the Green and Renewing Near West Side. Near West Side Partners has partnered with Rails to Trails. Shout out to my friend Willie Cardeas on their work of looking at how we can look at some of those rails and turn them into trails. We don't know where this is going to go. But once again, we are making sure that we're making the investments and the partnerships and the commitment to work, really trying to make these projects move forward. And so there's a lot of progress being made behind the scenes. And I would just encourage you, if you're interested in being a part of these projects and wanting to know, feel free to connect with us. We're happy to get you connected with some of the groups that are working on it, or just input. We're fine with just give us what you think and how you feel and your concerns.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the meaningful opportunities for youth?
Yes. Once again, I mentioned earlier that this was a very powerful panel of youth that came as we wrapped up the summit. I believe that Friday they spoke, and it was the panel host was another one of our ambassadors, Hala from Harley Davidson, and the ambition statement. Near West Side is a place where youth and youth-serving organizations are engaged in meaningful opportunities to grow, learn, play, and lead in the community. Their voice is always part of the fabric of the Near West Side. The Near West Side is 13 schools, 1 university. We have a young population throughout the Near West Side. Many of the people who are getting their first apartment, whether they're students at Marquette University or just residents of Milwaukee, getting their first apartment, are in the Near West Side. And we have just a younger population. We want to make sure as we look at these goals that we're engaging our youth population, and that goes by many ways. And so as we look at youth voices are involved in the development and deployment of meaningful opportunities, created Near West Side Youth Council. Shout out to our Center for Peacemaking as they begin to help us with this. Center for Peacemaking led by Pat Kennelly at Marquette University. Our community outreach mechanism to inform youth and youth serving organizations of opportunities, establish partnerships and gather data with youth serving organizations, established partnerships with Near West Side business to highlight job, paid work opportunities, identify tri-sectoral funding for youth and youth serving organizations. A couple of things also I want to highlight about that is that once again, we're laying the foundation. The assets of the Near West Side is that we have neighborhood house, and the assets of the Near West Side is that we have these high schools, and we have the university, and we have these grade schools. The assets of the Near West Side is we have groups like Penfield Children's Center, Milwaukee Center for Independence, and City on the Hill. All of these organizations represent in some way or another the youth, or support the youth, I should say, in some way or another in the Near West Side. And we're establishing those partnerships. For example, we're working closely with Marquette University as we look at the job opportunities in the Near West Side that can be connected to students who are graduating from Marquette or looking for internship. That's powerful for us. We're also working with interns. We have a robust internship program here in the Near West Side Partners, where we get we're privileged to have 3 to 4 interns each semester working with either Marquette or other organizations in the city of Milwaukee. So once again, we're focused on our youth because once again, we all know that they're our future. We want to make sure they're at every meaningful stage of the organization and of this AI Summit opportunity. Oh, Lindsey, I think you're on mute there.
Before we move on, I just add that, I think what was so valuable about the youth voices that we heard at the summit, and what I'm excited about for this team, is that, in the here and now, we can do a lot of problem solving. We can do a lot of planning for today or for next week, but to have the youth involved, it really helps us think bigger and beyond sort of the immediate issues or problems that we're trying to address. They really want to create a vision for the Near West Side that is a little bit bigger than what they might be dealing with every single day. And I think that is a great place to start really thinking about creative ways and creative methods to do some of the work that we do every day. Then we'll move on to the last project, and I can kick this one off, Keith, and then you can chime in. So making Milwaukee the Near West Side a magnetic community of choice. This team is really focused on what are the aspects that contribute to making a community a destination community that provides meaningful, attractive, and accessible opportunities and resources for people who live, work, play, and visit there. And it seems pretty lofty, but again, this is what we were just talking about. We're not looking to plan for tomorrow. We're looking to plan for the long term. So we really want to find ways to encourage and support, facilitate residency and home ownership in the neighborhood. And key to this is really finding ways to avoid displacing residents who want to be here, who want this to remain their community. I won't beat around the bush. There is a lot of concern about the G word in this work, that as we improve the Near West Side, will we see the people who live here moved out? And we don't want that. We don't believe that that will make the Near West Side a better neighborhood. We believe that the Near West Side is already a good neighborhood, and we want to bring the things that the neighbors want to the neighborhood. So in order to kind of address those concerns about displacing residents that live here, we're really going to focus on ensuring access and availability to housing programs and resources to simplify and amplify the opportunities that are available to residents who are interested in maybe becoming a homeowner down the line, who are concerned about their status as a renter or maybe facing eviction, who maybe don't have housing resources at the moment, and making sure that they can easily access the information that they need. We believe that this is a great opportunity for us to expand our ambassador program. Our Near West Side ambassadors know this neighborhood like the back of their hand, and they know the neighbors. They are recognizable faces, and they are reliable messengers for this information. And we think it would be a really great opportunity to use, again, those assets that we already have to achieve the goals that we see for the future. Keith, anything you would add?
Lindsey, as always, you do an excellent job. I would only just come back just to emphasize a few things. You know, our good friend, Alderwoman Malele Coggs, really championed the anti-displacement report that came out, I believe, over a year ago now. And Near West Side Partners, that is key to the work. We cannot be the neighborhood that we want to be if we're not acknowledging the residents who are here now, those who've made investments and commitments and believe in this neighborhood. And so this is really making sure part of this being magnetic community of choice as we bring more people, more businesses, more cultural assets to this community, that we acknowledge those who are here. And I would even say that even goes back over 2,000 years as we think about the Forest County Potawatomi, as we make sure that we make a place for everyone in this neighborhood. The Forest County Potawatomi has invested so much into the Near West Side, and we not only appreciate that, but respect as we begin to actually work on a land acknowledgement ourselves, the Near West Side Partners, of their place of making this community such a great community is. And like I said, going back over 2,000 years. The other thing I would say that's also important for us is the home ownership piece. We know that communities, we're not saying that everyone has to be a homeowner. We're not saying that every development that's made has to have home ownership, but it's important to have that home ownership piece. And we're going to be making some announcements soon about some partnerships about increasing home ownership in the Near West Side. If people want to own a home in the Near West Side, they should have that option. And we're going to work towards that goal to make sure there are options. The housing stock will lend itself to people being able to have home ownership. And so those are only a couple of things I would just add to that or emphasize. But Near West Side, we want to be and continue to champion being a magnetic community of choice.
And this slide, I think this is our last slide, Keith. It provides just a couple of updates of what we've done since we met in July. And this is brief at best and doesn't fully encompass everything. So Keith, I'll run through what's here. And if you can add anything that I'm missing, that would be really helpful. So community outreach, mid-September, we held the first Near West Side Week. We had 12 different events. We had almost 500 people participating in those events. It was a really great way to show off those assets, show off the positive parts of the Near West Side, and really get people who live here and who visit here together in safe ways to enjoy what the Near West Side has to offer. So that was an amazing day. Then on October 15th, our Green and Renewing team came together for the Near West Side Beautification Day. There were 5 different projects in the neighborhood, from plantings to projects at Story School to cleanups that happened over the course of an afternoon. And at the end of the day, the Near West Side looked a little bit greener and brighter. And then the following day, we had our Vliet Street Pumpkin Patch at the Vliet Street Oasis. And this was just an amazing day. It was a gorgeous fall day. We had over 200 children and families come pick up pumpkins, enjoy hot cider, get some Halloween decorations. And there was really that sense of excitement and community, and, you know, just there was a really great positive vibe in the air. Along the lines of business development, we've been working closely with LISC for the relaunch of the Brew City Match program, of which applications were just due. So we hope to have some announcements there, and working with our partners at Molson Coors and our awesome Near West Side staff person, Anne-Marie Gunn, we have begun assessing some grants for additional support for BIPOC businesses. And then finally, as Keith had alluded to, we do have some new funding coming into Near West Side to support some housing outreach efforts. And we're really looking forward to making a bigger announcement about that soon. Keith, is there anything here that I missed or anything that you would add?
Well, I have to admit, Lindsey, as we went through this presentation, we needed a whole nother presentation on the progress you made on many of these items. And so we may have to actually do that. I do want to point out a few things. The first project that we mentioned, Concordia 27, substantial progress has been made. And I want to thank Rick Wiegand, I want to thank the Near West Side Partners Board, but we are now really in the process of looking for funding and trying to develop a funding strategy to make this project happen. And that's where we're at. So we have the building, we have the partners, we have the design, we have the concept, and now it's just really making sure the funding is there to make that happen. And we're making progress with some of that funding. The other thing I would mention is that when we talk about the Near West Side community corners, we've made progress, and you've seen it, you've heard it. If you haven't heard it, feel free to go visit our blog post. But the planters that Lindsey spoke about, the plastic bollards, the painted crosswalks, we're exploring not only doing that on 27th Street, but throughout the Near West Side as we once again look for funding and look for partnerships. So these projects are already happening. One thing we're excited about, and you're going to hear more about, is our cameras along our commercial corridors. We've been able to work with the city of Milwaukee, work with our local Alderman Robert Bauman, and put funds towards a camera system for our community corners. And so I'm not going to go too far because there's much more to update on many of these projects, but as you can see, we're making that progress. We're following up. We want to be accountable for what came out of the AI Summit, and we're doing that. So this has been really exciting to share the AI Summit itself for those of you who may not have been aware or been a part of the process or just want to get an update, and to share the progress we made. And so I think we might have to do a whole nother webinar just on the progress we made. Lindsey, anything else you would add as far as the Appreciative Increase Summit for our residents and those who may be interested in wanting to either learn more or want to be involved?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the most important thing to kind of take away, and I hope that we've done a good job of underscoring this, is that the work didn't stop in July. It is continuing. And if you weren't able to participate in the summit in July, if this is all new to you, but there's something that's really of interest, we definitely want to hear from you. And I think there's a variety of ways that that can be done. You can join a project team. You can email us. You can visit the website and learn more about the process. And there's even a place there if you have a question that you want to send in anonymously, you can do it there. So we have a lot of different ways that you can engage. And I think it's our goal to share with you as much and in as many different ways as possible the progress that we're making, the opportunities for input, and have these events that kind of continue that spirit and that excitement of the summit.
Make sure I always take myself off mute. Lindsey, thank you for pulling this presentation together. I can't, we can't do this without a team, and Lindsey and many of all of our Near West Side partner staff play a major role in the work that we do. And also, big shout out to our anchor institutions who believe in this work. Harley Davidson really has been at the forefront and been the premier primary sponsor of the Appreciative Increase Summit and this progress. But we also have anchors like Molson Coors, Forest County Potawatomi, Marquette University, and Advocate of World Health, who have all chipped in some way to help us go further and go farther in the work that we're doing here in the Near West Side. And so we're going to keep doing this. And I just encourage our residents, I encourage our businesses and those who support the work that we're doing to help us get involved. We're going to roll our sleeves up. And we know there's issues. I want to make sure it's very clear as we wrap this up. We know there's issues in the city of Milwaukee. We know there are things and challenges that we have to face each and every day. But for evil to prevail, good men do nothing, I think, as Edmund Burke said. And so we are standing at the front lines to make sure that we're pushing to do some good work in the Newer Side. So I think that's it. With that said, Lindsey, that we're good to go, right?
I think so. Thank you all for who stuck with us this whole time. As you can see, Keith and I could talk about this all day.
No questions from the audience, right? Perfect. I think we may answer the questions if there were any. So thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful rest of the week and have a beautiful holiday.